I'd just like to start off by thanking all of you for coming. We appreciate that. Today, we're going to be talking about how you can support your child in literacy. A study done by Moats in 2001 talks about how your children, when they come into school, they come in with different various levels of vocabulary. If the student is linguistically poor, then they know around 5,000 words. If they are linguistically rich, they'll know about 20,000 words. That's a pretty big difference. The reason that I'm sharing this statistic with you is because we know that a cumulative vocabulary, or the vocabulary that your child has obtained over time, is directly related to their reading comprehension. If they have a high vocabulary, they have that rich vocabulary, they're going to be able to comprehend better in their reading, and it doesn't just stop at their reading. It goes into all their schools, so it helps them be successful in their science and their social studies, everywhere. Now that we know how important that is, one very effective way in helping our students obtain that rich vocabulary is we know that by having our parents read to their children, that helps them obtain that vocabulary. Because you, as the parents, you already have that vocabulary, and you can access many words that the students are unable to access. So you can help them obtain that. Another statistics that we came up with is reading to children even before they can understand words teaches them to associate books with love and affection. And what I'm talking about here is creating that environment for your children. So if you create an environment that is positive and pleasant for them when they are having that reading experience, and that will stay with them, and that helps them to begin to love to read. And if you can instill that love of reading in your child at such a young age, that will continue with them throughout their life and help them in everything that they do. And vice versa. If they do not enjoy reading, or if that is a negative experience for them, then that will impact them and have a negative connotation with that. So if you have your child and you want them to get done with their homework and you're yelling at them, you need to get your 20 minutes of reading done, you need to do this, then they get that and they start to feel that anxiety and they have this kind of a bad feeling about it and they won't really enjoy that. But if you sit down with them and you read a book, maybe a book that you read that you love, and they get that same experience that you've had and you share that with them, and that will give them that same feeling about reading and create that loving environment and that positive environment that we want to give them. One rule that we go by here at the school is we try to do 50% of our books are nonfiction and 50% are fiction. So with our nonfiction, sometimes it's hard to get that informational text. And so I have a few different magazines back here that for around $20 for a year, you can get 12 magazines, a magazine per month, that your students or your kids would love. Some of the girls, they might like American Girl is one. We also have Ranger Rick that has a bunch of different animals. I know I like to read about animals. I'm sure a lot of you do. For our sports fans, we have Sports Illustrated Kids. And then one of my favorites is National Geographic for Kids. So that's just something you could subscribe to for your child, and that could be something that they'd be looking forward to maybe each month to be getting that magazine. Now that we've talked about a little bit of why it is important to be reading to our kids, I want to talk to you a little bit about how to select a book and what to be reading to your child. So all of your children, they're on a reading level. So maybe let's say they're on a reading level D. And so what we would like you to do is to select a book that is 1 or 2 levels above that. So if they're reading on a D, we'd like you to be reading on an E or an F level. So maybe if they're reading on a D, they're reading maybe 1 or 2 sentences per page. You could move up to like a short chapter book like Henry and Mudge, and you can help access those rich vocabulary words that maybe they can't access on their own. But you as the parent, this is where you come in, and you can help them to access those vocabulary words. For example, here it has, in 1 week, the shabby cat. And so maybe a level D student, they're unable to read that, but you as the parent, you can read that and you can help them obtain that vocabulary, which in turn will help them be successful in all their school and their reading. If they're above that, then you can maybe go to a short series chapter book like Magic Tree House, and it has lots of great vocabulary. Here there's the word jagged, which might be difficult for them to read, but you, as the parent, can help them access that and really get those vocabulary words. Now I'm going to turn the time over to Mr. Kern. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to be talking about having your child read to you. I want to talk a little bit about our written language. Our written language has to do with symbols and sounds that correlate to those symbols. And so I have up here a different language. I want you to look at this. This is a familiar song that you know. And as you can see, there's not many words on the page. And so go ahead and read that. I'll give you just a couple of minutes. Come on, just right here. Start right here. There you go. I'll even point to that first letter. There you go. Give it a try. Sound it out. Come on.
I know that language.
Yeah, you see that we have a little bit of a challenge.
The pictures are the words.
So wonderful. Thank you. And so we want to approach this, and I'm wanting to show you this because this sometimes is the way our children at various levels and stages in their reading development, they approach text, and it kind of looks like this to them, and it's very hard to get through. And so you can see why they're frustrated and overwhelmed. Will you please click next? But when I provide a little bit of support, let me tell you a little bit about this. So I have an image. And this little girl's name, excuse me, you probably already know who she is. Her name is Mary, and she's going to school, and her little lamb is following her. And the title is, Mary Had a Little Lamb. So by providing you with support, by allowing you to look at the image, and by giving you a little bit of information, I gave you the title. Maybe you can even sing this song now. You might be able to sing, Mary had a little lamb, and you begin to see a pattern within these symbols. There's actually some meaning. Please click next. And I hear all of you singing, sounds amazing. So look at you. You know that new language now. So I want to talk about how we can provide support during reading. Will you please click next? So if your child's reading, say this story, and this story reads, the horse stood in the field. But your child reads, the house stood in the field. I have to consider how I might prompt them. Saying sound it out isn't very helpful because that's what they just did. There's only one letter difference between the two words. They already tried to sound it out and they weren't successful. And then we're saying sound it out, which is just more frustrating for them because I already did that. Hello? So you can see where that frustration begins to build. But if I change my prompt and I say, wait a second, this story isn't about a house, the child says, oh, the horse stood in the field. All of a sudden they became successful because I got them to thinking about the story and what was in the story. Please click next. Here again, same story, but different error. Here the child said, the horse standed in the field. And if a child made that error, I might say, did that sound all right? And oftentimes the child will say, that didn't sound right. But if they say, yeah, that sounded okay, you might say, well, in the English language, this is how we say it. We say, the horse stood in the field. You say it. They say it back to you, and then you say, read it. And you let them point and you let them read and hear that structure of our language and how it sounds. Please put next. Or it could look something like this. The child's reading and the child read, the horse walked in the field. Make sense? Sounds like the way we would say it in our language. But here I'm going to say, oh, something didn't look right. Something tricked you here. And the child might go back and they might get it just with that little bit of a prompt. But if they don't, I would read, you said the horse walked. Could that be walked? No, because it starts with a different letter. So those are some prompts that you can use to support your child, giving them that bit of an edge, knowing that this is a sound symbol written language that's very challenging, and we can support them in a variety of ways. Please click next. We're going to talk fix-up strategies. So your child comes to that big word and they just messed up and they don't even know where to begin. How do I conquer that gigantic word? Will you please click next? Maybe it's a word that looks like this. You might say to them, what does it start with? Because you know at least that's going to give them some support in figuring out this word. They're at least going to know, oh, it starts with that I sound. Please click next. Another support you might give them, are there any little words you see in that big word that you know? And they say, oh yeah, I see in, and I also know the word or. You know a lot of parts in that word. Please click next. And then last, you can say, well, since you know so many parts, let's figure that out. Now, as you know, as the books get a little denser, there's more words on the page, and so when you're trying to figure out a word within all the context, you can get a little lost because there's so much on the page. So that's when we take that word and we pull it out onto a whiteboard. You say, let me write that word that we're struggling with. And you write it. And then you say, let's see if we can break that. You said you knew this little word. And you knew this little word. Let's see if that helps us. Invent, or. Invent, or. And then make it a word. Inventor. And you can help them to figure out those long words in some simple ways. So tonight, I have a handout that has some different prompts on it for you to help in supporting your child. We have some books, we have some whiteboards, and we have some markers. And so I am going to start with these first 2 rows. And while we're passing out markers and stuff, well, the first 2 rows go right over here and select a book from off of this cupboard. Our last 2 rows, will you guys go to the back and select a book from off of that counter?
No, the first 2 rows.
Nice to see you.
Excuse me.
Here you go, guys. There's more down there. Excuse me, sorry. Students at the back of the room, if you're not finding what you're looking for, there's not many kids over here now, and you can take a peek over here.
How are you doing?
Thank you.
What book did you pick there? Oh, neat.
Did you get a whiteboard for your child? So welcome. Thank you for coming. There you go. Guys, did you get a whiteboard? May I get one for you? Here's your marker. You are so welcome, and here's your whiteboard.
Yeah, we got. We're in straight from here to restaurant practice.
Okay, it's Jennifer, right?
Yeah. What was your name again? That's right.
And the books, so pick a book.
Me too.